concept or something that maybe feels familiar that's been completely reimagined, or I try a new menu item that it has flavors or ingredients that I've never ever tasted before. And then that I get to sit down and have conversations with people like you who introduce who introduced me to a new concept called connected hospitality. And so this came up a lot when we were having coffee, and I'm super excited to dive into this with you today. So thank you so much for being here.
Love it. Pumped to be here. Enjoyed our prior conversations as well. Connected hospitality is kind of redundant, right? I mean, hospitality is connection by its very definition, but connected hospitality for Big Red F, it's one of our key values, and you're creating memories with that type of interaction where you are truly connecting with someone, where you are having them feel seen, recognized, heard, whether that's in a corrective situation or more hopefully and likely a positive situation, but that they're recognized as present, right? And that is really what people go out to eat for. You can get great food in a lot of places that don't require any sort of interaction, and sometimes you're craving that, so you're going to roll to a quick service restaurant and get some pretty quality food and eat it in your car and hopefully not get it on your shirt on the way home. So that's one experience. But the other that people come out to full service restaurants for, which is becoming more and more, I believe, differentiator in the market, is whether or not they feel like they made a meaningful connection with the food because of the story that's told by the plate, or the person who they had an interaction with that they have come to expect to be dismal or perfunctory or just service and not hospitality. So that connection is something that we try to attack from like 17 different angles. And it's crucial, and it's not automatic, and it has to be coached, and it has to be valued. And it's something that once you get a certain amount of momentum, it does kind of steamroll, because you start to feel the vibes and the excitement, and you get high on the connection yourself. So that's when the magic really starts to happen.
I love it. As you're talking about it more and more and more, your energy starting to speed up. Like you can tell that you are very connected to this topic. I love that. Was that you mentioned that this is in your core values? Has it been? I'm curious about your core values. Were they created at the very beginning of Big Red F? Have they changed over time?
They've changed over time. They have to change over time. It's something that I've been there for a lot of years, and it is something that has to evolve because the business evolves. And it is something that we've always been focused specifically on food. Food is, with a chef-driven, owned restaurant group. Dave was talking about it yesterday at our directors meeting, just flat out. It's like the food is the most important thing, because it really is. People come out for great food experiences, and then it gets all of the bells and whistles surrounding that. But food has always been one of the underpinning pieces. But this connected service probably in the last 2 to 3 years has really become something that we want to manifest in a different way and be intentional about, because we've had some spectacular employees over the decades that we've been open, where it's just how they're wired, right? And it's exciting to see, their natural gifts be displayed in that way, that they could choose to showcase any place else in any other capacity. It's how it would, they would be rewarded in the same way. But to choose to do it in the hospitality realm and to do it in relation to food and creating food memories and hospitality experiences, it's really cool. So but I would say it's always been a part of the core values, but it really is connection to our communities, connection to our staff, connection to our guests, connection to the plate. Are the things that we really focused on. If we wanted to say there was 4 sort of impromptu pillars, because the community piece has always been huge. We've always been, a big and deeply involved in charitable organizations and functions, and we've basically got about every month or two some big event that we're doing to try to raise money for something. We had Townie Fest last weekend at Post Lafayette, and we've got High West Oyster Fest coming up this fall, and there's just several others that were always a huge feed that we do at Post Boulder. Now used to be at Solo for the Imagine Foundation, where we're feeding, 600, 700 people for Thanksgiving dinner. So there's a lot that we get involved in. So that's connected too.
How does connection, I'm curious about how connected hospitality kind of flows through the organization. And you're talking a little bit about it in terms of community, guest, but I'm curious about the leadership. How does
Mm-hmm.
connected hospitality show up within your leadership team, kind of from that top down
Well, I think
organizational
it's
pillar?
something that we are really focusing on in the coming months because we have this is one way it's manifesting. So we've got biannual reviews, right? It's something that you just do, and we've had great review seasons, and we've had relatively unrewarding review seasons. And the way that we have migrated it now is, as opposed to it being a performance review, it's basically a get to know you review. It's an opportunity for the staff to see their employees in a different way, where we're not worried about whether or not you're marking your tables correctly or whether or not you're on time. Like, those are disciplinary issues. Those are things that should happen every day in the
Right,
moment, in the constant general pressure that is leadership and management,
right.
and all the non-fun stuff. And so the reviews this time around are trying to create depth in the appreciation of who you are, having you be seen. I mean, hospitality is universal. We treat our guests, we treat our guests rather, as we treat our staff. That's
Hmm.
a line item in the handbook, and it's something that we have to take to heart. It's hospitality to every delivery driver. It's hospitality to every maintenance worker. It's grabbing a Coke for the person that's dropping off the linen. Like, there's all kinds of great things that can happen because it's a spirit of hospitality. And so in those reviews that starts at the top and rolls down, it's more of a opportunity to say, hey, we've got 20 minutes, 30 minutes together. I want to come out of this knowing you better.
Before we dive deeper into today's topic, I want to share something that's been a game changer for the restaurant owners I work with. You know how we've been talking about building stronger foundations for your restaurant? Well, I've taken everything I teach my coaching clients about creating core values, mission statements, and long term vision, and I've turned it into 3 hands on online courses. These aren't your typical watch and forget courses. Each one walks you through using AI tools like ChatGPT to create the foundational elements every successful restaurant needs. We're talking about core values that actually guide your hiring decisions, mission statements your team can rally behind, and a 3-year vision that turns your growth from reactive to strategic. The best part is each course is only $49, or you can grab all 3 for $99. That's less than what most restaurants spend on a single food delivery order, but it'll give you the clarity to make better decisions for years to come. You can check them out at kristenmarvin.com/courses. You can also text me directly in the show notes. There's a link at the top of the show if you want a special promo code to save an additional amount of money on any of the courses, including the bundle. Now let's get back to our conversation.
I want to come out of this understanding what charges you up. That will allow me as a leader to motivate you in a different way because everybody's different.
Yep.
And in the heat of the battle, we generally don't take that time. So we try to intentionally, at this time of year, really invest in that relationship, um, because that's the type of curiosity, which has become a huge buzzword for us now.
Mm-hmm.
The curiosity that is necessary to really caretake someone. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't know them, you can't help them grow and help them be a better version of themselves, which really is leadership, is what we're all about.
Yeah. Is this a shift that you guys have been making in your performance reviews, or have you always done it this way?
It is a shift. It is a
Yeah.
shift. So it's sort of the biannual reviews. The spring reviews are a little bit more tied to performance, but they're
Okay.
still 360. But in the fall, it's more like, hey, we're coming out of the busiest season. We're investing in the people that are not seasonal employees, the people that are sticking around and going to be with us for a while, and heading into a time where, honestly, the holidays are still really busy, but we can invest a little bit more time in the get to know you phase. And that curiosity topic is something that we're really diving into deeply because curiosity creates connection.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't ask the question, you can't get the answer. You won't even know what the concerns are. And
Yeah.
so all too often, especially in some of our workforces, which are relatively young, maybe it's their first hospitality job, maybe they're a student and they only need this 2 days a week, maybe they don't necessarily need the money, but mom or dad said that they absolutely have to do this at least a couple of days, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
their level of investment might be different.
Mm-hmm.
um, but that curiosity is humanity. that is, I want to know you a little bit better. I want to know what you need out of me. I want to know what you expected about this evening. I want to know what your preconceived notions are of what this experience is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that I can morph myself just a little bit to accommodate you. And all too often, especially when you get into the steps of service and things, I'm checking boxes.
Yeah.
Just trying to get through the things that I was told by my boss I got to get through.
Yeah.
If we do that, we are like a third of the way there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That connection piece puts so much more meat on the bone as to what people are going to walk out the door and go, wow, man, that was different. The food in those two experiences could be identical. And they would say, man, the food was great. I'd go back there. Or, man, the food was great. And it was an absolute poor memory. I'm never going to forget that because of this happened or that happened. And there's all kinds of stories that equate to that connection and the way people utilize restaurants as the fabric in their lives that we maybe never know. And we certainly won't ever know if we don't ask the questions.
Yeah. Where's this focus of curiosity coming up in the business? Like, why is this a focus for you now?
So one of the things, it partially comes out of, honestly, it's born in the steps of service. So we have something that we integrate into separate steps of service we call ping pong, right? So you're going to ask a question and then your response is going to be adjusted based upon what their answer is. And it can be as simple as, what do you like to drink? It's not sitting down and saying, would you like anything to drink besides water? That's just like, it's an absolute red flag. I know that your hair probably stood up on the back of your neck when I said that.
Totally, I think I threw up a little bit in my mouth. Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry. So that's not asking a question. That's a statement of my effort level is low and don't ask me to do anything.
Right.
Right. And so asking the genuine question, what do you like to drink? What is your favorite type of beverage? Have you ever had X, Y, or Z before? I know you're probably thinking margarita. Have you ever had mezcal before? Like just the simple pointed question. Oh yeah, I've had mezcal and it's absolutely terrible. I wouldn't dream of it. Okay, well now we know, right? Yeah. We have a starting point for this conversation. And so it is not a litany of ingredients that we're trying to get to with people, which I think is what a lot of restaurants default to. It's got this beautiful coulis and it's got this amazing sauce and it's got these potatoes and it's got this protein and it's cooked in this way, blah, 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 blah. And it's a cooking show, that we've all learned that presentation. Yeah. Ours is the why behind it. Why is it something you're going to love? What is literally the vibe of the dish? What is this story that's being told? Oh, it's a super homey stew that's going to make you feel like grandma's house, like a little bit more embellishment and eliciting that memory vibe as opposed to I don't know what a shishito pepper is. It's like, oh, okay. Well, if you ever had a roasted green chili or if you've ever had, a Mexican green chili, it's not going to be quite that, but there's a little bit of sweetness. There's, it's not a list of ingredients because that is mechanical and that is unconnected and depends on, which is better than it's ever been, but depends on a certain level of food knowledge of the guest. And if they don't have it, now they're feeling like they should know it. And that's not a position we want to put them in.
Yeah.
So it is born out of portions of the steps of service, but it also is born out of something I'm focused on, sort of as a module of many of the workings that I do with our leaders, because I sort of am in consultation role with a lot of our leaders in the restaurants, specific to hospitality, things that we call hospitunities. So what is the opportunity for hospitality that you can create that connection? And many of them, it's a table touch, right? Which is, again, that ping pong. Table touches can be super mundane and uninteresting and unspirited and really just checking a box again. And you get the person who comes by and puts their two fingers on the table and says, thanks for everything. We hope you have. Yeah. And then they walk away and they didn't ask the question what? And you didn't give an answer. Be like, does that guy even work here?
Yeah,
I don't know who that was. So, us trying to find what is that in where we can build that connection and have that question asked. And, one of my favorite stories of recent was a manager who shared this with all of us, that they went to the table and there was a gentleman who was wearing a t-shirt and the t-shirt was two stick figures, and one half of the t-shirt was a stick figure that was all sort of jumbled, like you'd taken a bunch of dice of stick figure body parts and then just throw it out on the table, and then another one that was a stick figure that looked proper. And they asked, what is that all about? And it was a t-shirt for Craig Rehabilitation Hospital in Denver, which was close to one of the restaurants. And so, just the curiosity, the question about the t-shirt led to this story. And he shared that his daughter had a brain injury and that she had been in a coma for a long time and that she was in rehabilitation at Craig Hospital, but that her daughter loved one of the dishes at the restaurants. And it had become a big part of their family. And he was dining by himself. So again, it's another huge opportunity, as we would say, single diner, often overlooked as an opportunity to make a friend, make a memory, make a connection, because they're not there for anything but food.
Right.
And food and food. They're not selling anything. They're not buying anything. They're not trying to impress anybody. So that connection is right. But one of her daughter's favorite dishes was at the restaurant. So he shared a picture of the family gathered around to go food from the restaurant, from the Post. It was one of the Post restaurants, from the Post. And just this huge smile. And the point that he made, which really struck me, was when you can't talk, because she was nonverbal at that point, when you can't talk, you can't communicate, delicious food is a tremendous source of community, connection, and enjoyment. It was something that they together could all share in. And all of that reveal and the deepening of that connection with that single guest, which is how we win, person by person, was created by a innocent question about a cool t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's connection.
I love that.
That's where it gets born. And that's where we have the opportunity to say, this is someone who has a story to tell. And if I don't invite the story, probably never going to hear it.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you're saying here about inviting the story. We know that more and more people are entering the industry with less and less experience. And that moment of just slowing down and taking a second to look at somebody's t-shirt and recognize that, again, this curiosity, this moment of curiosity that sparks for them to say, hey, what's that all about? I like your t-shirt. What is that? How are you teaching and training that among your hourly employees today?
Some of it, frankly, comes out of allegory like what I just shared. That's an impactful story that if you aren't jazzed about the opportunity that creates from a humanity standpoint, this might not be the gig for you.
Yeah.
Like that is the most, to me, that is a charge unlike any other charge. And so what we're in specific to table touches, we're coaching, what are the ins? What are the bullet points of where your areas of opportunity are? Because some people need to be learning from a book. Some people hear that story and they think, well, I'm going to ask every person about their t-shirt. Well, that's not exactly what we're coaching here.
Sure.
But that's
a start.
One of them. Yeah, that's one of them. And if that works for you, that's cool, but at least you're asking the question, at least you're opening the dialogue. And sometimes, you get shut down. Sometimes people don't want to talk to you at all and they don't have any interest in, and that's fine. And we're going to read that. We're going to move on from it. But, as we're coaching it in regards to specifically table touches, it's, what are those ins? It can be something they're wearing. It can be something you overheard. It's perfectly okay to reveal the fact that you're an eavesdropper by a profession.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comedy that can be shared with that. And I think that so often we get the comment from our teams, and I know this is universally a challenge of, well, yeah, no, I touched every table. Because I delivered food to that one and I cleared a spoon from that one and I brought the iced tea to that one. I'd be like, no. This is like physically touching the table. That's the guy with the two fingers who stops by and doesn't stay. We want that connection to be deeper, and there has to be a meaningful interaction. And I think, like I said before, it's one of those things that does require some hip pocket training, so that we're sort of modeling that behavior through our directors or in my role. And then we're also affirming the great works that are done. So when we hear a story like this, that is essentially that Craig Hospital story is kind of like brand lore now, shared with everybody else, and they know that story, and we'll revisit it from time to time, because it illustrates exactly the power of what a tiny little step will be. You talk about I think curiosity and invitations are two really important pieces, and um, the important to accept an invitation when you receive it.
Yeah.
Um, there's nobody that's invited to something that doesn't feel better about themselves because they were invited. Thank you so much for the invitation. I mean, any of the parties or social gatherings or invitations to a podcast, like to have the invite, it makes the person who's being invited feel great. And so
Mm-hmm.
we try to inject that too into something as simple as a phone call when a guest calls the restaurant. If that person gets off the phone and we haven't invited them to make a reservation, that might not be their purpose. But if we haven't
Yeah.
extended that invitation, we are missing huge.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm checking to see if you have any specials. Hey, I'm wondering if you guys have a burger on the menu. Nobody calls the restaurant with those kinds of questions anymore. But if they're calling the restaurant, they probably don't have open table on their phone.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we get them on the horn, can I make a reservation for you tomorrow night? I would love to make you a reservation for you tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Can I invite you to join us tomorrow night? Or are you thinking about tonight? What night are you thinking? So if we get off the phone without offering that invitation of a reservation, we're missing.
I agree 110%. I don't call a lot of restaurants anymore, but I kind of want to now just for
Yeah.
fun to see who is willing
Yeah.
to extend that invitation. I
Oh,
won't tell the story, but the last restaurant I called, it was awful.
yeah.
I had to pull every piece of information out of the person that I was on the phone with,
Right.
which was just really torturous.
Right. Which speaks to that attitude of curiosity.
100%. Yeah, this
If
person
I'm
wasn't
just
curious
here,
about anything.
nothing. I'm
Except
curious about getting off the phone.
getting off the phone. Yeah,
Right.
that person did not see me as a guest.
Right.
They saw me as somebody who was interrupting what they were doing during the
100%.
shift. Yeah.
Which was probably rolling silverware or something that really was not that important.
Yeah.
Or throwing.
How are you identifying that curiosity, that willingness to give an invitation, that connected hospitality? How are you identifying that in candidates during the interview process?
That's a great question. So one of our key tools there is interview guide.
Mm-hmm.
And we've honed that a little bit over the years, but the initial question is, why hospitality? Why are you in hospitality? Why is this your drive? Why is this your choice? And we refuse to let the interview go beyond that question if we aren't satisfied with the answer to that question.
Okay.
Because the three most common responses that you get are, the money's good, I like the flexible schedule, and it's what I've always done. Those are three non-starters for us.
Okay. And tell me what happens if somebody gives that one of those answers.
So the ideal is if somebody said, well, the response should be, the money is flexible. The money's good, schedule's flexible, it's what I've always done. Well, you deserve to be well compensated in whatever you choose to do. And so I'm going to assume whatever job you work in, the money's going to be good. Your schedule has to fit your life, and it has to fit your life inside and outside of whatever your employment choice is.
Mm-hmm.
And having done something for a long time doesn't necessarily mean you're really good at it.
Yeah.
So we reflect it back and say, okay, what hospitality? Well, I really like people. That's the other one that you hear a lot. I really like working with people. So, okay, well, you can work with people at Barnes and Noble. You can work with people at hospital. You can work with people at Costco. Wherever you want to work, there's people everywhere. Why hospitality? And if they can't get there, our needs and your focuses aren't necessarily aligned. Thanks so much for joining us. If there isn't some sort of passion in there of, I love creating memories through food. I love whiskey and I love tequila and I love sharing my loves with other people. If there isn't this idea of, I have a passion for the subject matter, which you would require in any role, right? Like, if you're a lawyer, you love to read a lot, right? Like, it's just seeing those libraries, right? If you don't love to read, you're not going to be a lawyer, amongst other things. But if you don't love food, if you don't love drink, if you don't love the idea of creating a hospitality-based memory, then you're not for us. And so we try to weed that out at the start. And there's not a lot of people that are able to fake that. And so that's the first sort of steps, we're looking for social cues that would indicate that you love it. Level of smile, level of eye contact. What are some of those physical body languages? And then we will do, in select situations, sort of a impromptu exercise. If we get through the interview, we get to the end of it, and it's like, it might be last night's special on a little sheet of paper. And I'm going to give this to you, and I want you to take 2 or 3 minutes to study that. And I want you to come and greet the table. and greet the table as if you're my server. And generally we see two responses to that: excitement or trepidation.
Yeah.
The excitement is, oh, sweet, yes, because they've done that. They know that this is not a speed bump. I'm not requiring you to do something that's uncomfortable at all if you've done it so much. Or it's like, well, I don't know what these ingredients are, and I don't know what your steps of service are, and I don't know any of this, that, or the other. And like, okay, this is, you might make it, but that's not what I'm hunting for.
You're not curious. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You aren't willing to dive in, because this is especially, I'm speaking almost specifically of like front of house roles here, but in this last example, but if you have trepidation about greeting a table, what are we talking about?
Right.
Like you're maybe support staff a bowl, but you've got to be curious about people. You've got to be fascinated about asking. You're the person at the grocery store. I can think of a guy at my local grocery store, Will. Friendliest guy on the planet. How's your day today? How things going? Yeah, I thought this. I mean, and he does it every 16 minutes, right? Or 3.5 minutes. And it's the same thing. It's awesome because he's interested in people. He's not bored with it because he's excited about the response.
Yeah.
The response drives his energy.
Yeah. I just had this funny visual of somebody buying a car just to go sit in it, but they're never going to drive it. Like, okay, I'm all excited about this car. I say, okay. And I'm never, then I'm not going to take it anywhere. I'm not going to go enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by, love that you're using the interview guide. Sounds like your interview practices are very aligned with your core values. Mm-hmm. I am fascinated by how quickly you're identifying if somebody is a fit or not. Mm-hmm. And then, so I'm assuming in the matter of 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can say, no, thank you so much for coming in.
Can be.
This isn't a fit.
Yeah.
We wish you all the best. So that candidate knows when they walk out the door that that's it. They're not going to get hired. They're not waiting for a call back.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to, some of this is born out of, it really existed before COVID, because the hiring situation before COVID was so intense.
Totally.
It was like, look, I got to hire somebody on the spot. Like, for us, it was more like the competition was so high because there were so many restaurants opening, especially in the Denver market, that we were realizing, like, if we do a first interview and try to call somebody back for a second interview, they're going to get hired by somebody else who hasn't vetted them.
Yeah.
But they're going to hire them just because they have a heartbeat. So if they have a heartbeat, great. If they aren't our fit, then let's send them on their way with a release so that they know it's not going to be us. And we're excited about the fact that it's not us because we know it's not right.
Yeah.
But we had seen so often, especially our younger and less experienced managers, of which we have fewer now, we're proud to say, that they would spend 30 minutes sitting with somebody.
Yeah.
And then hiring them simply because they kind of talked themselves into it over those 30 minutes to be like, well, I spent 30 minutes with this person. I should probably hire them.
Totally.
As opposed to taking the objective assessment of the data that they got, which is the other thing that the interview guides help us with. Now we have apples and apples. Mm-hmm. Now I have a set of 3 or 4 people, or I've done this enough times with the same set of questions that I have a data set that is comparable.
Yeah.
As opposed to I'm speaking to you and I'm thinking more about what's my next question than I am listening to your responses and logging over my history of interviews where those responses live, related to success that I've seen. Yeah. And so hopefully, if they leave the restaurant and are told the why, they leave actually better. That 6 or 8 minutes that they invested with us, if it's truly that short, like I can think of one that we did, and it ended up being a great training scenario because I was conducting the interview with a couple of new managers. And the gentleman had come in and he had a decent looking resume from mountain towns. But then the resume he brought to the interview wasn't the resume that was online. It had a bunch of real estate and financial services. And we asked those questions and we got the 3 bad responses and about hospitality. And then I specifically said, I was like, I see your resume here. This isn't the one that we had on the online application. Is there a reason you brought this one? And he said, well, yeah, I just didn't have a printer and I didn't have the time. And I said, you recognize that you're applying for a hospitality position.
Right.
This really doesn't feel like the level of investment that we're looking for. And we would expect you to be invested in hospitality if that's where you want to be. If you want to be in banking, that's where you should bring this resume.
Sure.
Thanks so much. Wish you the best of luck. Feedback.
Totally.
He grew out of that.
Totally. Hey there, podcast friends. I hope you're enjoying these impactful conversations and leadership insights I'm bringing you each week. Before we dive back into today's episode, I want to take a moment and reach out and ask a small favor that would go a long way in supporting the show. If you've been loving the content I'm providing, please take a moment to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Not only does it make my day, but it also plays a pivotal role in helping the show grow. Your reviews boost my visibility, attract new listeners, and encourage exciting guests to join me on the mic. So, if you want to be part of my show's growth journey, hit that review button and let me know what you think. Thanks a million for being awesome listeners. What is the, I'm so curious about so many things, but I was going to ask you how you get your managers comfortable with being able to cut it short and not spend the 30 minutes because they feel bad for somebody, or they feel bad that they took all this time to get dressed up and bring in their resume, and they probably know that they're nervous and they're trying to connect. But it sounds like the interview guide is the tool that just helps them get there.
The tool helps them get there. Some of the satellite materials that go with the interview guide as well speak to, this is the preservation of your own time. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to waste. We're looking at time management here.
Totally.
And so a lot of times in the interview training, in one of the key modules that I work with our managers, it's about time management. And you need to schedule specific times during the week where you are going to be doing interviews, and the whole team knows you're going to be doing interviews, and they can relate that to people that are walking through the door with or a resume that, like, yeah, come back at 3:00 on Thursday, and just make that a priority. Because if we're always hiring, we're never behind. Never missing out on super high quality people. And if you are in the regular habit of it, then you're able to hone those practices. But the real, it's kind of like the table touch. You have to have that aha moment where you're able to say, because you have a self-belief and you have a conviction in what you will and won't accept, and you know that this person's behaviors are something you won't accept. And so you let them know, I mean, shoot, it might even be, we've had interviews where it just goes to a really dark place and they use a word or a phrase that's unacceptable. And we say, hey, I got to stop you right there. Like, the phrase that you just used, that's not aligned with our company culture. And if that's the way you feel about hospitality, then we're just going to respectfully say, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And know that the managers know that they have the right to do that, and that it is the correct thing to do in that instant moment. So really, it's an emboldening of the managers to say, sometimes shouldn't come as a surprise, but you're the boss.
Yeah.
You get to decide who gets entrance to your team, who you allow through the gate, because once you hire them, they're yours.
Yeah.
And now we got to work on developing and training. And so who do you want to invest that time in? Who do you want to spend the time getting to know well? And it will be more exciting to do it when somebody in that interview, you're walking out of it being like, oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I just met this woman, Sarah, and she is a rock star. And when we hear that and see that, it generally pans out to be true.
I wish I would have had that verbiage that you just used of, like, I'm going to stop you right there. This just does not align with us. This just totally took me back to when I was, I don't know, 15 years ago or so. I had an interview with a barista, friend of all the staff. Should have been a shoe-in, right? Coming in. I was a new manager coming in, and this person came to the interview, had great experience, high volume, a lot of hospitality, and dropped an F-bomb during the interview.
Wow.
And I went on with the interview. Again, I wanted to give that person the time because they were a staff, friend. And the staff was so pissed off at me when I told them that we weren't going to bring that person on because they dropped an F-bomb during the interview. But I didn't. They looked at me like I was the villain, instead of me holding it to, this is just not acceptable as a company. Yeah. We are a breakfast restaurant. We don't need people dropping F-bombs at our tables. So,
especially when you don't know anything as the employee or the candidate.
Right.
What is the company culture? What is the expectation? Like, that's taking tremendous risk, and with risk, there's chance that it's not going to be a reward. And, that's a great opportunity for that manager, when the staff is like, I can't believe you didn't hire him because he used an F-bomb. I'd be like, well, I wouldn't have hired you if you use an F-bomb.
Yeah.
I won't hire anybody that they just lash out an F-bomb in the midst of it, because
Totally.
if that person is already that comfortable in that role because of their relationship with you,
Mm-hmm.
they will only see worse behaviors.
Totally. And I
They
liked
will.
that they were comfortable, but not that
Sure.
comfortable.
Yeah, not that comfortable. No
Yeah.
way.
They thought it was a
Yeah.
shoo-in. Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. What do you see from when you turn away the candidates
Mhm.
that are not a fit? Yeah, I loved your perspective of like, hey, we're doing something to help them grow. I don't know if a lot of them see it that way or not
They
when
may
they're
not.
rejected.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
do you find that they come back as guests, or do they ever reapply, or are they? What's their
Yes.
reaction?
I would say more often than not, they're, if we phrase it right, they're appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some get up from the table mad and walk away. And in that case, we really know we're right.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like
Yeah,
that's just, if they blow up and be like, this is blah blah blah, this is like, well, you have just affirmed exactly all the attitudes that I didn't want to add to my team.
yeah.
But we have had people that have reapplied, especially in the manager ranks when we're able to give them feedback. This is something that
Mm-hmm.
we're not looking for this position. And then they'll see another position available, be like, hey, I applied for this and you told me that. So I thought maybe this would be a better fit. Like,
Love
hey,
that.
I agree. And let's
Love that.
talk. So yeah, it's, you can't control how people are going to react, but you got to stick to your guns
Yeah,
and decide what you're willing to put up with and what gets you excited. And,
yeah.
it's really, we're there is a hiring for a specific attitudinal fit that's really hard to measure, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like art. It's different for everybody. And you look at it on the wall, and for some people, like, that's just a gobbled mess. And then other
Yeah,
people are like, it gives them chills,
yeah,
right? And so there's aspects of that with the fit that you can just feel in hospitality. And yes, some of it is body language and its posture and its confidence and its, their speed of response, and whether or not they're smiling and whether or not they're easy in their own skin. And it's a lot of those things. Um, and some of it has to play out over time. And you can't assess that in the interview. But I think that when you're able to give feedback, it helps you hone your own parameters as to what excellence is
100%.
continually, right? Because
100%.
it's like, um, the tedious repetition of the simplest movements is what make you great,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so all of these tiny little things, or constant general pressure, however you want to say it,
yeah.
that's why I'm not personally a believer in. I think we talked about this. This is one of my little mantras. I don't believe in micromanagement. I don't think it
Mm-hmm.
exists.
Yeah.
I think it is a phrase used by those who don't like to be managed,
Mm.
because the little things matter. They're
Yeah,
important.
yeah,
All the little things. And if you're doing all the little things right, then we're not going to manage those anymore. If I'm telling you to do things that are unimportant, untimely, or not relevant, that's bad management. That's not
yeah,
micromanagement. That's me having improper focus, or that's me not understanding my um, the player on the team, or the seat in the bus that they're on.
yeah.
But the little things all matter. And so if we're managing those and being communicative about those and giving the feedback on those, we're honing for ourselves what our own expectation is, and then honing for the team what excellence looks like.
I love it. I love that you're offering that little sample of connected hospitality in the interview process. I've always
Yeah,
believed that the candidates that are coming in, your doors are guests, right? You
100%.
you have an opportunity to or when we let somebody go, promote them
Right.
to a guest, right?
Sure. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, this is the dark side of things, but in a disciplinary process, if somebody is exiting our ranks by our own choice and they don't have great intel as to why, that's
Mm-hmm.
on us.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yep.
That's so unacceptable. That's just
Totally.
at will state whatever you'll say. Like, it's not quote unquote illegal. It's just bad business,
Yeah.
and it's bad
100%.
leadership, and it's bad coaching, because everybody deserves the opportunity to be their best self. That's our job as leaders, and with the assumption of positive intent, that gets called a lot of different things. But my assumption is that you're doing your best possible job that you can do on this podcast, and I think you're doing an awesome job. And this is as good. This is will get better, over time in any one thing, but you as my teammate, if I'm a server and you're a server and you're having an off day, but I'm going to assume that you're doing the best that you possibly can. I'm going to do whatever I can to lift you up, and then I'm going to do better myself. Like living in that space, we've got to own that as leaders in any coaching scenario. And if we've given a billion reminders or 3 sets of written warnings or just one stern reminder that this is not okay, and then they still can't shape it up, then we're going to make a change, but they're going to know why, and they're going to leave, and they're honestly, not to go all radical candor on you, but they're going to know we care.
Yeah,
they're going to know that we're feeling that we are wanting to feel connected to them. We are wanting them to understand the why behind everything that we do.
Yeah,
and sometimes that why is why you don't work here anymore. Other times, more often than not, that why is because it makes a spectacular lifelong memory for a guest. And because the people who have decided to pull on our door deserve to have a memorable experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think so much of what we do on a day-to-day basis with running businesses is about managing risk. And I think, right, whether it's a server making the choice to touch a table or not touch a table, right, there's risk to both things. And I think the risk is, they're unhappy, and then I've got to move into action or spend more time with them or whatever. And the risk of not touching the table is that you miss an opportunity, right? And I think with a lot of owners and operators, I think that people don't necessarily understand the importance of managing their reputation and the risk that they take when they choose to let somebody go prematurely. And in this market, it's never been harder to find great people. And so love that you're offering that hospitality on the way out the door. That's great.
Well, and that comment you made really struck me, the risk of not asking the question, that's curiosity, right? The risk of not checking with the guest. And yes, as a server, is the fear of unknown worse than whatever their complaint might be?
Right.
I would say yes. Like, I don't think they had a very good time. And I feel like that. So I can relate a personal point on that. And some of my team would love this. I got a 1-star review on Yelp. Personally. I crushed it. There was a table during a super busy night at one of our restaurants. They came in super late for the reservation. They were a party of 12, but they booked as 3 parties of 4. And then once they got there, they all wanted to sit together. And so it was already embattled at the start.
Sure.
And I feel like I'm relatively graceful at the table, and we needed to turn the table, and we made all kinds of offers, and they were kind of waning in the time. And I had great rapport with the table, but there was one couple at the table, group of family, and people were in from all over town. I want to say it might have been graduation last year. And I could tell when they left the table, I was like, oh, I might be in trouble with them. And I spoke to them and I apologized to them. And then 16 hours later, boom, 1-star review on Yelp. Manager forced us to leave the table. Like, just all of this mudslinging, which was their perception and was their truth.
Yeah.
And 100% bought into it. And as soon as I read it, I was like, that's this guy. And so I sent a message to the team, and I was like, what a great learning experience. You're not going to nail all of them.
Yeah.
We don't ever want to try to relocate a table. That is always fraught with issue, and it's a high risk scenario.
Totally.
And you're measuring, future guests versus, departing guests. So there's no good answers there. And you can obviously, in so many instances, do nothing wrong, but not do everything right.
Yeah.
And that was one of those great lessons.
Yeah.
Like, I had to do 16 times over, I might behave exactly the same way, and the outcome might be different. But because I'm listening to that feedback, because I have the realization of how that one ended, I will never do that same thing again. I will grow from it. I will be better. And so it was a great kind of like reflective moment. And then honestly, 2 weeks ago at one of these manager meetings, the GM brought it up again. It was a sweet sting. And she was like, well, at least we don't have to worry about any more 1-stars from Adam. And I was like, oh, I completely repressed it and forgotten all about it. But being able to have that humility and receive that feedback and showcase, like, nobody's perfect. It's not the mistakes you make. It's how you react. It's how you grow. It's how you remedy. It's true in sports. You get beat on a play. What's your next play going to look like? It's true in business. It's true in relationships. How are you going to make it up? And how are you going to grow and improve?
I love it. Last question for you, and then I'll let you enjoy your day.
I'm already enjoying it.
How are you? How are you keeping connected hospitality top of mind for you so that it can continue to thrive through the organization?
I think the same, that one's easy. The same energy that a manager can get from the connection they build with a teammate or the connection they can build with a guest is the same energy that I get from a manager realizing the energy they get,
Mm.
right? I don't know if I said that well, but basically their growth and their development and them coming back and being like, so for instance, we had a secret shop in one of our restaurants 3 4 weeks ago, and a manager that I've been working with, not tremendously, but we've plugged in some of these table touch modalities, and we've talked about the connected service, and we've